It's the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show, we think. Just ahead, Jeffrey has our pre-owned car of the week. Stephen Pace with the Tesla Club of Greater Houston joins us. Later, we talk with Eduardo Galista, Regional Ram Brand Manager. Conrad has the racing calendar and car clinic, and we'll also have stories making automotive news headlines this week, including the sinking car ship. It's just ahead on this edition of the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Howdy, along with Mike out of this Beetlejuice Mars. King Conrad DeLong.
In my avocado shirt.
We need more Jeff Dziekan. I'm Don Armstrong. Glad you could join us today.
We're so happy to be on the air.
We're thrilled to be on the air because we've spent 2 hours trying to get this thing on the air. And it, according to this thing, is partially on the air. Now, you're either on the air or you're not on the air. It's kind of like being pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. There's no in between.
Well, I think between the four of us, none of us are.
We're only pregnant. From the waist up.
God.
So that's why we're only partial. Just the waist
That's
up.
it, partial. What's the problem now? As he throws his hands up, it's something is awry. But I'm not going to pay any attention to that.
No, it's working. He's shocked that it's working.
What?
I think it's working.
You're not. What? Let me turn you on now. Can you talk civilly?
I'm not touching it.
Good.
Okay, that's good.
It looks like we have a Zoom guest. We haven't checked to see whether or not we can hear him.
Well, let's just see. Is it Stephen Pace? Are you there, Steve?
It is. It is Stephen Pace. I can hear you, and Mike can
Here, let's all applaud.
Yay.
Let's all applaud. We're applauding. We're applauding Mr. Engineer down here.
I think Stephen's been listening to us struggle as we were trying to.
Has
get
anybody
all this
called
together.
David? Anybody?
No,
David?
we're not trying.
It's too early to call David.
We don't want to call David.
He's not even home
Our
yet.
chief
Call him this
engineer. Yeah,
He's not
he's
home
probably
yet.
trying to recover from last night's conversation with Mars.
Oh boy.
At any rate, sorry, Stephen. We just had to go there. Stephen is with the Tesla Club of Greater Houston. Glad to talk to you. I have a friend of mine that I work with that just bought a Tesla. He is in love. And I think that everybody that buys a Tesla is in love right out of the bat. Am I wrong?
Oh, it's for sure. And you may see a lot of things coming out of Consumer Reports, but one of the things I think is most important, it is the #1 brand for consumer satisfaction. So for whatever issues they may have, they love the car. And I think that's by and large from our members is what we see.
How many members are in your club?
I just checked this morning, 3,736.
Oh, my
Holy
God.
cow.
And that's just in the Houston area?
Houston greater area?
Yeah, but I'd like to do a quiz. Because when I first got my car, I was on the show, I think, in 2017. I had the 5th Model S in Houston, and you never saw them. I'm sure now, since you drive around Houston, do you want to take a wild guess how many Model 3s are now in Texas?
In Texas?
Yeah.
Well over 6 figures?
Yeah, 32,855 as of 5th. And that's just Model 3. Model Y, 14,000. Model S, 12,000, almost 13,000. And Model X, 5,700. So, I mean, you've probably seen the difference where you can't drive 5 minutes now in Houston and not see a Tesla. Even in my neighborhood, where I had the only one, now there's like 4 in a neighborhood of 600 houses.
Well, I will tell you that, yes, I do see more and more Teslas every day. And they're certainly a mainstay here in Houston. And I had a discussion with a friend of mine that does not own an electric car. And we talked about owning an electric car, not just Teslas. But, I think that there is a time and a place that everybody could use an electric car. We're having a little boy spat over here on the dais between Conrad and Mars.
Well, he's got it right, and then he's got to go touch it.
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm not touching it. It's doing it.
Oh, okay.
See, it just did it again.
Okay.
I'm not touching it.
Sorry, Stephen. So at any rate, we had this discussion about it, and, we were talking about infrastructure, being able to charge your electric, and I said to them, look, if you've got one and you stay around Houston and you drive back and forth to work and grocery store and church and all the things that we normally do on a daily basis or weekly basis, you're fine. And getting to Dallas, not so much of a problem. But if you put let's say, 30,000 miles a year on your car, which is a lot for most people, and that means that you're probably not just staying in Houston. You could run into an issue on the highway and trying to find a place to charge it, and the time it takes to charge it when you're on the road. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think so. And Tesla very early on realized that, we don't want this car to be just a better car than a gas car. I mean, just, a better EV. We want it to be a better car than a gas car. So you're right that 95% of the time you're around your house, you leave your garage full every day. You just don't have to worry about charging. I mean, a Model S, I'm just looking at the range, 348 miles of range. You're typically not just doing that on a whim. So you're right that in that 5% use case, you want to drive to Austin, something like that. What the car does will tell you where to charge. And so Tesla has built out globally a supercharger network that says, hey, if you're driving to Dallas, here's a couple chargers. Maybe you want to top up here for 15 minutes. And the goal is to stop for 15 minutes, get out and grab a sandwich or use the restroom, and then get back in the car, and you've recovered now 150 miles of range, and you're on to the next one. So Tesla has built these out on every highway, every main road. If you look at it, there's thousands and thousands of them, and the goal is you can go from 0 to 80% in maybe 15 to 30 minutes, depending on a couple things. There are multiple different types of superchargers now, but Tesla's the current ones, the gold standard ones that they're rolling out are 250 kilowatt chargers, and in some places they're going on to a version 3 that's going to be even faster.
Now, what about the actual connection? Because I heard that the Tesla connector to the car is different than other electric vehicles.
Yeah, it's true, and there is a pilot going on right now in Europe, in the Netherlands, to where any electric car can come charge, and they have adapters, and there's some differences in the way Europe does it and China does it in the U.S. But Elon was sort of like the existing charger standards were stupid, right? In 2012, if you ever saw a CHAdeMO adapter, I could go bring you one if you want to see it, but they were designed for like charging forklifts in factories, and they're these giant plugs, and he's like, this is crazy. So Tesla couldn't wait for them to solidify on a standard. So they said, look, we've just got to ship or we're going to die as a company. So they came up with a standard that allows you to charge on AC and DC with the same small, efficient plug, even at 250 kilowatt, and higher. And since then, there've been sort of, some things are coalescing around CCS. And the good news is Tesla has a CCS adapter. I wouldn't be surprised if longer term, maybe they switch. But in what they've been able to do is through adapters and also through doing double-headed chargers, you'll roll up to it, and if you have a car, let's say if they decide to switch it, it'll just have a second line. So the power itself is the same and the way it communicates with the car, but Tesla's is built on one of the existing standards, so changing the plug is relatively easy, and I can charge on any Tesla charger. Plus, I can charge on any Electrify America or any of the other ones with an adapter, and I have done that.
Well, let's see, and I worked for General Motors way back in the day when the EV1 was out, and then they also had the S10 pickup trucks, and you had that paddle that you had to push into the blade, and literally, if it was dark out, it would spark. It was pretty scary.
And I assume that's not the case anymore.
Well, they recalled all of those. That's not the way that the system works.
So let's talk about the range that you quoted, 300 and what did you say? 354?
I just looked at an S Plaid is 348 is the EPA.
348. But isn't really that dependent on how heavy you are on the accelerator pedal and whether you're using heat and other draw on the current system that's in the car?
Yeah, it does. I mean, like anything, if you go a gas car, if you take a Challenger out on the track and you floor it and you just drive around in a circle, you have about 13 minutes of fuel and you'll run out.
Yeah.
And so similarly, an EV, if you drive it spiritedly, and by the way, many Tesla owners do, because they're insanely fast cars. If you can do 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, with the Plaid, it's quick. And so you do take a hit, but it's not significant. Like, in very high, let's say you're running all the heater and everything like that. Maybe you're affecting 20% of range. And then, but like a gas car, if you're driving huge speeds, if you're driving, 85 miles an hour to Austin, you're not going to get that range, but you're going to still have plenty of miles left over if you start with 348, or depending on which car you have. Each one has different battery options.
And if you're saying pulling into a supercharger, a Tesla supercharger, 15 minutes is going to give you 180 miles range, 15 minutes to a half hour. I mean, ultimately, if that supercharger is placed somewhere close to a restaurant, it's about the time you're going to spend in a restaurant anyhow. You can spend 15 minutes just getting in and out of the car to go to the restroom, much less sitting down to have something to eat.
How was it getting used to getting out of a gasoline vehicle and going into an electric vehicle? What was that like? Because let's face it, I mean, you don't pull into the 7-Eleven for a 5-minute splash and go.
Yeah, I haven't been to a gas station in more than 9 years, except for gas. Like, I stop in and get like a Coke or something. I haven't missed it. In Houston, especially when it's hot and you're out there and you're trying to fill up, the gas light comes on and you pull in. I tell you what, there's a lot of women in our club, and they almost universally will tell you they hate going to a gas station. It's not just the rain or the heat or whatever. It's, people are panhandling them and things like that. And so, yeah, I have not missed it.
But but I guess the point that I was trying to make is what exactly was the transition like for you, going from a gasoline car where you could stop for 5 minutes and get gas to having to worry about where you're going to charge it if you're on the road, and finding that charger, the transition, because there has to be some.
There is, but Tesla makes it very easy. So, like I said, 95% of the time you're leaving your garage full. So you're not having to worry about it 95% of the time. So there's a very small 5% use case where you're actually, needing to think about it. And then the car helps you. So in the car, it says, here's all the superchargers. Here's where you could stop. This is how long you would need to charge. So when you say, I want to go from here, I have an S and I have a 3. I drove my Model 3 to Colorado and then to New Mexico and then back to Houston. And so when you do that, you say, hey, I want to go here for the night. And it says, hey, there's these 2 chargers, stop here for 15 minutes. So you don't need to find charging. The car tells you, please stop here. And if you start driving out of supercharger range, it will start telling you, hey, you need to be thinking about, make sure your hotel has a charger or something like that. And so there is a little bit more planning, but again, it's for 5% of the time you have to plan, and the car helps you with that.
Well, out of the 3 or the S, which one do you prefer driving in your stable?
For my car, since my car is almost 10 years old now, my S doesn't have the range because it doesn't have as big of a battery and it wasn't as efficient. It's a much heavier car. So my 3, it's an all-wheel drive versus mine is only 1 motor in my S. Of course, a Plaid now has 3 motor options, but my 3 only has 2. But it just drives it's such a fun car to drive, and it hugs the road. For road trips it's better, and especially for me because it has more range than my S. And I always tell people, if you're going for the performance or the range, go for the range in Texas, just because the distances are so great. It can save you. You can skip a supercharger. So if I'm driving to Pensacola, maybe I can skip over, one of the superchargers or 2 on the way.
But what you told us is that the car has a sense of urgency as your charge goes down, and it knows its time and distance to the next supercharge station, that the car urges you to go do something. It's kind of like having a backseat driver.
Exactly. Like if you're driving into a charging desert, it will warn you. So you really have to be, these stories of somebody runs out, you have to really try to run out. Having said that, I've run out of gas before in my gas,
as have I. Actually, recently.
Oh, no.
So you can do it.
Oh, yeah. I was driving my Tahoe and ran out of gas.
How is it? Have you had to get anything serviced on the car? Have you had to buy tires for the car?
Regular oil change?
No oil change.
Yeah.
What is it like dealing with Tesla and the service center?
Yeah, so there's 2 service centers in Houston. There's 2 more planned. So one is at 45 and Rankin, and the other one is like at Gessner and Westheimer. They have mobile service, so a lot of the things you just go on your phone and you say, "Hey, I need this. I need my cabin air filter replaced or whatever," and they, for most things, will just drive to your house and do it in your driveway or where you work. So it's been quite easy. They do eat tires because, especially the way I drive. And the weight of the vehicles, you can go through tires, but I get my tires like a discount tire. So, I don't, and I have the tire warranties. So you don't have to go to Tesla for everything. And they actually are starting a new program where you can, as a club, we can go to the service center and, teach people how to do the common things like changing cabin air filter. And then that way you can just get the part yourself and change it if you feel like it. Or you can let the service center do it. But there are things that can go wrong. I've been, my 3, I've had 0 problems. There's been a few minor recall things that Tesla's fixed in my driveway.
Everybody has
my S,
those, yeah.
Different story. I have the number 219th made, and so it was very early days. So there were some kind of common problems that the S had then that they Tesla resolved, and then they took that knowledge and it basically came to where, if you've heard of insane mode.
Yeah, well.
Uh-oh.
It looks like we might have dropped him on Zoom.
Uh-oh.
But, and Tesla here in Texas is kind of a different, and this is where I wanted to ask him about, is the purchase experience. Because Tesla operates differently than a new car dealer does here in Texas.
Right.
Is they have I think it's called the delivery center in Houston, but they don't have a sales center that you have to independently go in and order the car.
And then they deliver it to the pickup center?
The delivery center, which I think there's one at North I-45.
You put the big coin in the machine and
Put the big coin in the
No, it's not that.
Oh, that's not that one?
No.
But I know that the dealership experience and the relationship to the state and that whole purchase experience is different with Tesla. And I wanted to ask the difference between his first one that was 10 years ago and his second one, which I'm assuming his S was just a couple of years ago, has that changed very much? But I don't know.
Mars sits over there with his hands in the air.
He's
because
working on it.
We've been struggling with Zoom, and he may need to just completely reboot his computer to see.
Well, I was waiting till our guest was finished.
Clearly dropped
he's
the
finished.
guest.
He gone.
At any rate, so we'd like to thank Stephen Pace with the Tesla Club of Greater Houston. I bet you if you Google Tesla Club of Greater Houston, you'll be able to get a hold of Stephen. And 3,000 members, that's major right there.
Oh, it's men and women, so don't be shy.
Exactly. All right, let's move on, shall we? Let's do the racing calendar. And yay, racing season is officially underway today.
You can get rid of that one.
Because 2 weeks ago, I wasn't all that excited about that thing in the LA Coliseum. It was kind of fun to watch, but Thursday they had the Twin 125 qualifiers, which was a lot of fun, and then on yesterday they had the truck race. Today they'll have the Xfinity race, and then tomorrow is the Daytona 500. Also, last night was NHRA qualifying at Pomona at the Winter Nationals, and that was actually fun to watch. And we've had Antron Brown on the show a number of times, and he qualified at P6 in the first round at 375. His partner, Justin Ashley, he qualified on the pole at a 367 at 331 miles an hour. Robert Height went 331 miles an hour with a 388, which was just a monster bomb he laid down.
And mind you, that's 1,000 feet going 331 miles an hour. I cannot even, well, of course, the dragsters are the world's fastest accelerating machine, more so than the space shuttle or anything else that you can compare it to. Imagine going from 0 to 331 miles an hour in 1,000 feet.
And talking to Antron, and he says the initial hit isn't where the G-force is.
No,
it happens out about mid-track when all the clutches come in and the tires grow. is where that level of G-force acceleration is greater.
Yeah.
And then other racing coming up is next weekend will be the Arizona Nationals for NHRA, the 25th through the 27th, and then as well as next weekend on the 27th is the Auto Club Nationals in Fontana in California. Formula One doesn't happen until March. 12 Hours of Sebring is in March. IndyCar starts next weekend at the 27th at St. Petersburg, Florida. And a lot of new IndyCar teams and drivers. AJ Foyt's actually going to be running 3 cars this year.
Really?
And one of them with a Brazilian young lady who's supposed to be quite outstanding.
She has Brazilian. Okay.
So that's the racing calendar.
Mm-hmm. That's the racing calendar.
And Mars is rebooting. And we're hoping it helps.
Mars is
as long as he doesn't
it's been a different kind of morning for Mars. I hope that he makes it home okay, because he's not driving an electric, and I can't imagine. What is it? What are you drinking over there? Is it just straight vodka or
no? I'm finishing my tea.
Absinthe. Yeah. He's finishing his tea.
Yes.
Well, he gave up on Coke.
Yeah, he did. Which is good.
Was that what flavor mushroom is that tea? Just asking. All right, time now for this hour's car review.
Oh, boy.
And Jeff Dziekan has decided that he wants to review the 1964 Dodge 330. Mm-hmm. Now, I would imagine that you're not going to go to the used car lot and pick one of these up for a song.
No.
You'll probably find one in a junkyard or two, but or one that's on a racetrack, a drag strip mainly, because a 64 Dodge 330 was not my cup of tea, but apparently yours, so have at it.
There is a backstory to this, and yes, you can find them. There are a lot of race cars that are the 330. But the story of a haunted 1964 Dodge 330.
A Christine type.
It killed 14 people.
Really?
Yes. It was a Dodge named Golden Eagle, and is believed to be the real devil when killing 14 people. We all know about Stephen King. We heard about the famous movie, novels, Christine. The novel immediately became a hot seller in spite of the classic horror movie. But have you ever thought about a real demonic actual vehicle? Well, this one is. The Golden Eagle is nicknamed of a Dodge 330 limited edition produced in 1964. In spite of its normal look, the car was the culprit of killing 14 people throughout the United States.
Okay.
Just one physical car.
One physical car. 3 deaths of the policemen because the police force actually had the car, and the policemen that used it actually committed crimes of either murder-suicides or taking the lives of their family. And the whole time that the car was in the police force. The background, the car was then given or sold to and somehow got in the hands of the Allen family. And surprisingly, nothing happened to the Allen family.
George and Gracie?
Nothing happened to the Allen. Even though nothing happened, they would be going down the highway and the doors would be flung open as they're going down the road because the car wanted to do it. It stayed peaceful for them, but a local church group found out about it and vandalized the car.
Okay.
They destroyed
it.
Yeah, and if we had pictures, you could see all the pictures of it. But nevertheless, they got it back. The Allens got it back, and the church group stole it again and chopped it up and put it in different parts of the country. But the Allen family got the car back in certain pieces, and certain parts of the car were there. One of the latest ones after that happened is 2 boys were dared to touch the car. They knew what the car was about, and they dared to touch it. And one of the boys was hit by a car. And he flew up and landed actually on the 64 330 because it was in the area. Anyways, enough about that.
This is such a pleasant story.
I know. Well, it's the ways the day's been going. So it's a 2-door sedan, 6 people. 4-door sedan had 6 people. The 4-door wagon, either 6 or 9 people. 170, 270, or 440 on the engine sizes. $2,857. And haunting would be extra.
This is what caused today's show.
Yeah, this is it. You know,
I think it's infected this computer.
Exactly.
Because he's brought those spirits into Studio A.
Yes.
With this story.
Golden Eagle. Torsion bar ride. Rust
Do not
protection.
say that name again, please.
Beetlejuice. Self-adjusting brakes. Self-driving. Electric wipers, sun visors, and a PCV system.
Wow.
One of the first.
High tech.
Yep. Yep.
High tech. Yes, because I believe that crankcase ventilation was non-existent. Well, it existed right to the atmosphere.
Oh, yeah. We used to have a road draft tube.
That's right. A road draft tube. That's what it was.
It would puff out a little bit of smoke and drip a little bit of oil.
I have one of those from my urologist.
A road draft tube. And PCVs, I think, were 68 was when PCVs were mandatory. There were some in use prior to that.
68, really?
I think 68 is when it went mandatory.
Yeah.
But to Don's point, there's a lot on the racetrack as well.
My 1954 Chevrolet 3/4 ton pickup truck, utility truck, had the 235 Blue Flame 6, and it had a draft tube down the side of it.
The Ram Cummins diesel had a road draft tube in the late 90s, which surprised me. Yeah, it really surprised me because they did not have a PCV system on it. And I want to, and one of our listeners will chime in. I want to say it was the original 12-valve version had a road draft tube. I remember working on one since I worked with BG, and I was real surprised that it had a road draft tube. Part of the customer's complaint was it had an oil leak. Well, it didn't have an oil leak. It had this pipe that dripped oil. And
because it ventilated the crankcase.
And that was, because if you don't ventilate the crankcase, you're going to create so much pressure inside there, you're going to create a leak.
Yep.
So that's how they dealt with it.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. And with the PCV valve, it kind of takes that oil pressure and
sucks it into the engine and creates all kinds of other problems.
Right. Interesting days, don't you agree? By the way, we alluded to the story about the cargo ship that is on fire. Well, it's on fire and adrift in the ocean. And I want to do this story now because it's a current happening thing. Ship carrying around 4,000 vehicles, including Volkswagens, Porsches, Audis, Bentleys, and Lamborghinis that caught fire near the coast of the Azores is going to be towed to another European country or the Bahamas, according to the captain of the nearest port. Lithium-ion batteries in the EVs on board the ship named Felicity Ace have caught fire, and the blaze requires specialist equipment to extinguish it.
That isn't on the ship.
Clearly. They certainly have a lot of water that they have access to, but that's not going to put out the fire. The ship is burning from one end to the other. Everything is on fire above 5 meters above the water line. U.S. economist Patrick Anderson estimated the total loss could be $255 million. The Panama flag ship was traveling from Emden, Germany, where Volkswagen has a factory, to Davisville, Rhode Island, based on the maritime traffic website. Davisville is a port about 70 miles south of Boston. The 22 crew members on board were evacuated Wednesday when the fire broke out. Nobody hurt. An internal email from Volkswagen's U.S. operations revealed there were almost 4,000 Volkswagen Group vehicles aboard the ship. Whoa. More than 100 of those were headed for the port of Houston, with GTI, Golf R, and ID4 models deemed to be at risk, according to an email. So it's still on fire. It's adrift. They are sending boats to go and snag it, to tow it, but it's going to take 3 days for those boats to get there. It's in the middle of the ocean. What do you do?
Why are you taking it to Bahamas? What does that have to do with
It's
anything?
a port that's out
nearby?
There. Well, yes. The problem is towing a burning ship to a port is not the safest thing to do. So you have to, it's probably one of those ports that has an offshore tie-up.
Yeah.
And so
just to let it burn safely.
Burn safely. And
well, when you look at the pictures of it, I mean, literally the most recent picture, the side is burned out, and you can see into the ship.
Yeah.
But again, that talks about the issue with lithium battery fires, and you're not supposed to put them underneath the plane and all this other stuff. Well,
or use water on them.
Well, you don't put them out with water, and then the smoke that comes out of them is extremely toxic. So you got to have special equipment to fight it.
Part of that's the same reason NHRA limits the speed of electric vehicles, because if they crash, it's so complicated to deal with them.
Yeah.
And so they've got a speed limit on them, literally.
Interesting. Hey, time to take a break. In Wheel Time Car Show streams on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and InWheelTime.com when we can get it hooked up. Yeah. Podcasts are available on your favorite podcast channel. In Wheel Time Car Show continues after these brief messages.
Saturday, March 19th, 2022 is the premiere of the all-new Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In, and you're invited. Tailpipes and Tacos kicks off a new seasonal format, and first up is the Spring Cruise In at the Lupi Tortilla in Katy, 8 to 11 a.m., Saturday, March 19th. Tailpipes and Tacos will award trophies for the best hot rod, best classic, and best modern classic. So make plans now. Tailpipes and Tacos is Houston's coolest cruise in, and this is where you'll enjoy seeing the best hot rods, show cars, classics, and resto mods, along with Lupi Tortilla breakfast tacos and adult beverages. There's no entry fee, and all cars will automatically compete for custom Lupi trophies and other prizes. It all happens at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10. Get your ride ready for the all-new Spring Tailpipes and Tacos, Saturday, March 19th. It's going to be a huge car show, and spectators are welcome. The In Wheel Time Car Talk Show will be there, too. Let's celebrate the arrival of spring and the return of Tailpipes and Tacos, Saturday morning, March 19th, 8 to 11 a.m. at the Lupi Tortilla in Katy. We'll see you then, weather permitting. Is your business or company looking to stand out in a crowded advertising market? Looking to reach the real auto enthusiast? Well, you found it. You're listening or watching In Wheel Time, and so are your fellow enthusiasts. The In Wheel Time Car Show now reaches 500,000, and we can put together a marketing plan that will engage them in your product, business, or service. To get the tires rolling, just shoot us an email to our marketing director, Jeff Dziekan. His address is jeff@inwheeltime.com. If you're in charge of your company's small, medium, or large business anywhere in the U.S., let the On Hold Company help you retain customers and promote your business on your telephone system. Promote special sales or company info when placed on hold. The On Hold Company provides custom on-hold messages with professional male or female voices, licensed background music with no long-term contract, no monthly recurring bill, and updates your messages as needed. Call the On Hold Company at 713-223-HOLD or go to onhold.net.